What is up, everybody? JediRalts here, and welcome to a very special Pokemon Top 10 video. One that I've not done a Top 10 video in a long time. But since it's Pokemon Day, figured I'd put something out there, so I decided to do a comprehensive list of my personal Top 10 favorite Pokemon movies, because, it's Pokemon Day. You're probably watching, one of those, or some of those. You might marathon a few. I don't know. But, figured I'd do that. It was a very difficult list to come up with 19 Pokemon movies out there, and another 20th one on the way, which looks awesome, by the way. Really excited for that one. But with 19 Pokemon movies, cutting that list in half, well, I thought would be pretty easy. As I started doing it and building my way up, it became very hard to figure out the order in which I like them, because I like so many of them. Some were easy to put at the top, some were easy to put at the bottom, but finding that middle ground between like 5 and 13, how it would go, like I get my top 5, I get my bottom 5, finding that clump in the middle is very hard. So there will be things on this list that you might be like, why is that above that one? And it's like, really? There might be one tiny thing that puts it above the one below it, or under the one above it, but know that this is an opinion-based list, of course, but that a lot of these movies here, especially before we get to the top 5 of the list, those are like could be interchanged at any given time. But right now, this is the way I see it. So without further ado, let's hop right into the list. Also, I guess this is just a bit of an obligatory spoiler warning. I will be talking about the endings of some of these movies. If you haven't seen them, just turn away. It's spoilers. Number 10. This is actually something that I'm going to put before 10. This movie right now would be referred to as 11, so I'm going to put this little insert in before I talk about number 10. But Victini, Black and White, the duology, I would say it's closer to 11 than 10, but it was very much tied just about with 10. And I really liked this movie. It was the first film released in America since Pokemon Heroes, I believe. And yes, I did go see it and get the oversized Victini card. Really happy about that. And I really like Victini as a Pokemon. It's really cool. I love the whole conflict of the movie and Victini not being able to escape the whole thing and messing with that. And I kind of felt really bad a little bit knowing that there was no other Black and White movie on this list, because I just personally didn't think that the Black and White movies were that great, but I couldn't justify putting this movie above number 10, even though I really, really liked it. I really liked 10 just a little bit more. Volcanion and the Mechanical Marvel. This film was exactly what I expected from a film set in the XYZ timeline. The first two were meh. Diancie had a whole slew of nonsense in the middle, and don't even ask me what the plot of Hoopa and the Clash of Ages was, because I don't know. There was legendaries and Big Hoopa and something, but given how amazing the XYZ anime was, this movie absolutely delivered. The relationship between Volcanion and Magearna was heartwarming and believable. The scene where Magearna's soul heart was ripped out and Meowth was translating the pain it was in, and its literal death were gut-wrenching. And fucking Zygarde complete form. Nothing else to say. That scene was awesome. Number 9. Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea. I greatly enjoyed this movie. Not only was it a great final movie for the advanced generation, but it was a really good movie for May's character. The past movies had greatly focused on either Ash or Max, relegating May to support, and we already had a bunch of other movies where Brock was in it, so he didn't really need to take a lead. But seeing her take the lead was great, and I really enjoyed the visuals and the sound of this movie. The characters were really fun and believable, and not to mention, there were tears shed at the end. I still cry. Number 8. The Rise of Darkrai. I still remember watching this movie on DVD over and over again years ago. Darkrai is probably one of the biggest badasses in the Pokemon films. Going from being a misunderstood anti-hero to the savior of Alamos Town was great, and once again, the music, specifically the Erasion song that plays at the end, and Darkrai's theme, was simply fantastic, and the visuals of the city literally being disintegrated by Palkia's powers was just, it was really, really nice. And I mean, I still listen to the songs from this film from time to time. They're just fun and addictive. Number 7. Pokemon the Movie 2000 or The Power of One. I particularly like this movie for its creative antagonist. Lawrence III isn't an evil dude bent on taking over the world like Giovanni or something. He's just a guy with a hobby, albeit a kind of evil hobby, but a hobby. It was a dark look at what Pokemon could be without any sort of moral code or humanity, just people collecting the Pokemon as trophies to be owned. It was a really enjoyable ride, and I still particularly like the fact that Team Rocket got to go out as heroes in this movie. They really stole the show in the final act. Really fun. Number 6. Spell of the Unknown. Speaking of interesting antagonists, Spell of the Unknown takes it one step further from the Power of One. Entei isn't exactly an antagonist, just following instructions from a scared girl who lost her parents. And the Unknown are just Pokemon who lost control of their powers, so kind of just accidental bad guys. The visuals in this movie were really beautiful. The crystallization of the city and the tower looked fantastic, and it was really enjoyable seeing Misty and Brock get their shot to battle on the big screen, even if it was only for a short moment. And also, anything with Charizard is an automatic win in my book. Number 5. Pokemon Forever. Even though I said the top 5 were easier to pick, it's still a bit cluttered and hard to justify the order, even for me. That being said, Pokemon Forever was an incredibly well done film. The writers knew exactly how to build you up and then tear you down. It was an emotional roller coaster the whole way, and I can tell you, I still get teary-eyed when Celebi seemingly dies at the end. It is an incredibly emotional scene. And the reveal at the end that Sammy was Professor Oak was incredibly well done, and I'm sure it surprised a lot of people when it first came out if they didn't put 2 and 2 together, or they didn't know that Professor Oak's first name was Sam, so that was a really well done plot element. Number 4. Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. This movie had everything you want in a Pokemon film. You got tension, you got emotion, you got excitement, you got sacrifice. Everything fits together so well in this movie. Lucario is probably the best movie-exclusive character in the Pokemon franchise, period. He has a tragic backstory, and is distrusting of people understandably after what happened to him, but in the end still sacrifices everything to save everyone. And I'll say it again, the animation in this movie was absolutely stunning. It was just a really, really nice experience, really enjoyable. I still go back and watch this. It's one of the first movies I think, I'm going to go back and watch a Pokemon movie. This is one of the first ones I think of. Number 3. Pokemon the first movie. You can't have a top 10 Pokemon film list without putting the first movie near the top. And yes, I know I'll get a little bit of flack for not making this number 1, but it's all my opinion. Sure, the movie's got its flaws, but its message is the most important part of the film. It's a message of acceptance. As Mewtwo said, the circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant. It's what you do with the gift of life that determines who you are. And honestly, this is a message we need now more than ever. And also, if you didn't cry when Ash died near the end, you're not a human. That is just a fact of life. Not a human if no tears were shed. Number 2. Jirachi Wishmaker. Those of you that know me may be surprised that this movie isn't number 1. Jirachi is, after all, my all-time favorite Pokemon, so you'd think that his movie would be my all-time favorite movie. Well, I'll admit it was tough to choose between this and number 1, but I have my reasons. I love the story in this movie, and I love that we get a lot of focus on Jirachi's relationship with Max, who's a character who's not considered to be all that important in the grand scheme of things, given that he's not a trainer. The movie really resonated with me because, like Max, I too had a best friend at the time who I could only visit with for a short time, once a year in the summer, since he had moved to another state. It emphasized making the best of the time you have, and not letting the limited time stop you from having fun. And also, yes, the scene where Jirachi went back into hibernation had me in tears back then. And it still does now. Number 1. Destiny Deoxys. You might notice a bit of bias in this whole list. I put every single movie from the Advanced Generation on this list, while every other generation was only partially recognized, or, in the case of Black and White, not recognized at all. But I think the Advanced Generation movies are the best movies Pokemon has to offer, and Destiny Deoxys is the best of the bunch. I absolutely love the story of reuniting lost friends. I love the futuristic setting of LaRousse City. I love the supporting cast of characters like Rafe, Sid, and Tori, who didn't just fall into the background, but felt like big players in the plot. And I love the story of overcoming fears. The scene where Tori knowingly jumps to his potential death to save Plusle and Minun from falling off the tower was just great. And I wish we were able to see more of these characters. But all in all, this is a movie that I could watch over and over again, and I have, and still love every single time. It's just a fantastic ride. And that's that. That is my comprehensive top 10 list of my favorite Pokemon movies. As always, it's completely subjective, completely my opinion, so I'd love to hear you guys' opinion. If you want to let me know what you think deserves to be in the top 10, maybe if something that was left off the list you think deserves to be on the list, let me know. This is, this is an opinion-based list, so it's not anything that's set in stone. Also, thank you guys so much for watching, and next month will be first of the monthly animations. I gave the announcement in January. I'm working on it, working on some rigs, working on things, kind of mixing it in with other projects I'm doing, so I'm hoping that the next few weeks, probably spring break for me, which is next week, I will have the first monthly animation up, and then we'll get those once a month, probably sometime in the middle of the month, going. So yeah, look forward to those, and maybe a few more of these top 10 lists and stuff like that. So as always, I'm JediRalts. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.